Lisa gives us a countdown now. Okay, so I have not been on here live in forever, so it was time. And today is, if I'm not mistaken, the 21st. Yep, we are right in the winter solstice if you're in North America. So we're going to talk about the solstice. We're going to talk about what starts to happen about this time of the year, because we've talked about how the things start coming in for us all throughout the year, especially once we start getting through. We start hitting August, we hit the summer solstice, we hit fall equinox, we start kind of really digging into our next year. And by the time we get here, it is 100% time for us to start to get some boots on the ground. So you're going to find yourself feeling that it's boots on the ground time for whatever downloads you were getting in the past 6 months of the year. That does not mean we will not be closing out some stuff in 2024 that we started in 2023. We have this mindset that because it's linear years, that everything is going to go. Let me break this down 2 ways. At first we say, oh, we're not linear anymore, so it doesn't matter. The years don't matter. Now, I still think there's a cadence to the years, and every year I'm working on something else, right? And because a lot of our consciousness comes in, and it can take a year for us to start to absorb the consciousness, a full year, and then another year for us to actually start to anchor in the consciousness, which means we're doing the consciousness, that could be like a 2-year time frame. And that's a minimum. That's if we're giving it everything we got. Even though I will talk about linear years, none of this stuff happens exactly on the day, and you'll start to see. I will guarantee you, anyone who is tuning into it will know what their 2024 was about by the time they got to the fall equinox. They knew what they were going to be focusing on. They had an idea maybe who was going to be around. Maybe you're not 100% sure who exactly is going to be around as far as relationships you might be working on that year, but you have an idea. Now, in our human existence, we had no idea because we weren't tuning in. It's not that all these hints weren't there. It's not that all these things weren't going on. We just did not have the consciousness to tune to them. We acted like, especially when you get in the very beginning of awakening and ascension, that we're so much more, I don't know the word I want to use here. We're so much more, let me leave it at that, than our human consciousness was. That, whoever's in a human consciousness, nothing's really going on for them and everything's going on for us. Which is totally not true. There's still a lot of stuff going on in that consciousness for people, they just can't see it. That's why you'll see different things are going to be happening for other people in 2024. But they don't have the consciousness to see it yet. But you can tune into that and go, okay, I know what they're working on next year. I know what I'm going to be working on next year. Sometimes we don't have the full exact picture. We might know where we're going. We might know some stuff we're doing, but we might not even know what to call it until maybe we get to February or March or April of the next year. Because our consciousness has to reach the point where we're almost above it, so we can go back and look at the reality we're in. Our body's always going to set in a lower consciousness than we can hit with our higher mind, right? Our higher mind consciousness is always going to be better. What we can hit with our consciousness is always higher than what our body can do. Because it takes so much to get the body to that vibration, and the body can only really go up to 12 dimensions. Whereas our consciousness can go, to way higher than that. Just imagine the dimension and you can hit it eventually. But your body can only go so far. So and we can only also, I'm kind of going on a few tangents, but I'll bring it back around to what I actually wanted to talk about. We always we can't do anything from this consciousness looking up at different consciousnesses. We can't align anything. We can only align down. We can only look at our consciousness and go down from there. That's how we can align things. We can see more, we can penetrate more, we can penetrate every other consciousness, but we have to get above those consciousnesses to do that. It only works one way. It's always a downward flow. You're only going to align realities that technically your body is setting in that is a lower consciousness than you're hitting at that moment, because you can then see how to align it, which might sound a little counterintuitive, but when you're in it, you'll understand it. Because that's why when we're in a lot of this stuff, we might not know 100% what's going on. Last year, I really didn't 100% grasp what I was doing until I probably got to about April or May. And then I was like, okay, now I got it. Now I know why I'm here. why I had to be here, and why I have to continue to be here for maybe another year or so. Though it's not my entire focus anymore. That was last year. Now we kind of start to bring one thing in on the next. So now I have to do that and that and that and that. And now I'm going to add one more thing to it that I want to focus on this year. So by now you have a pretty good idea. Like I said, it doesn't mean you're still not going to be wrapping up 2023, because you will be. A lot of us are still wrapping that stuff. There'll be some people that don't complete 2023 stuff until they get way into 2024. Because they didn't know that's what they were trying to do. They didn't understand the goal, in a sense, right? A lot of your human realities, if you look at them, you'll see how you drag that shit out. I can go back and look at stuff that ended in 2014 that I dragged all the way out to 2015 because I didn't want to let it go. I didn't want to move on. So I just kept trying to relive it, trying to restart it, trying to resuscitate it. And that's what holds up all these realities for us, especially in our human consciousness. We don't realize we're the slowdown. You know, we're the reason realities don't materialize very quickly. We're the reason because we have so much shit in the way. We want to blame on everybody else. Well, everything else that's in our way, we put there. We put all that shit in our way. We allowed all that stuff in our way. We allowed all that stuff to happen. We knew better so many times that we allowed it because we didn't want the other options. We didn't want to leave that person. We don't want to leave that job. We don't want to move to that new location. So we drag shit out repeatedly, over and over and over and over again. And you're going to find that even when we get into ascension, we start doing the same type of thing. So when you hit here, and this will probably go very strong until you get to 111. When you get to 111, you're going to start to feel like it's really time to get boots on the ground. You should have pretty much your whole template in by that point. You're going to start to feel that whatever you're supposed to do, it's time to start doing it. Your universe will start sending you the signals, the people. Maybe if it's funding you need, the funding will come. You're going to start to see the stuff coming in for you to start to do it. Now, I know, like 1 year, one of my things I wanted to do was put up courses, and I did courses that whole year. You know, I started doing them in January, like writing them out. I didn't actually do one until like March of that year. And then I remember the last one I did was actually in January of 2023. So they kind of dragged on that whole year in 2022 and right into 2023. So we're going to have a lot of that. I don't want anyone to ever get bogged down on the linear year, but be aware that there is a cadence to it. There is a marching orders you have every year. Every year there's something you're going to focus on. Every year there's something you're going to be focusing on to clear out of your system. Every year there's going to be stuff you're going to be working with. If you have a lot of fear around doing it, this might be the year you have to do it, whatever it is. I try not to get too much into the holiday stuff because once you reach certain parts of ascension, they don't matter. You know, holidays don't matter, birthdays don't matter. They're all very human things. They're very a human. The world kind of revolves around when you're in your human consciousness. These certain things, certain religions, certain holidays, birthdays, those types of things. Because those are days we kind of pick to be maybe nice to people. Pick to talk to certain people you haven't talked to all year long. Whereas when you reach certain levels of consciousness, we're kind all the time. Everyone matters all the time, not on certain days. So I'm actually going to, instead of slowing down over the holidays we're about to have in North America anyway, I'm going to do a little bit more in the next couple of days because there is a lot of stuff that needs to be supported during this time as people start to see what's coming in, as people start to get going, as people start to really get wise as to what is going on. Like I said, all this stuff is going on in your human consciousness. Pick any year in your human consciousness that you had, and there's something very particular that happened that year. I will guarantee you by the fall of that year before, you were getting hints of what was happening. You were getting hints you were going to see more of this person, or you're going to be working on this thing, or something was coming in. And by the time you got to January, it was it started to roll. But some of this stuff we have to do ourselves. Back in our human existence, some stuff kind of happened for us because we were not going to instigate any of that stuff because that's not what human consciousness does. It doesn't instigate. It is reactive. It's not proactive. You know, human consciousness will only be proactive if it's trying to get something out of it. It's not its normal set point. It's only going to be proactive if it wants something. It's not going to be proactive to do something for somebody else. So we were very reactive. We waited for the stuff to come to us. And we still will wait. I don't even like the word wait. We still will wait for stuff to come to us. And even in higher consciousness, we're not waiting, but we do allow stuff to come. But that doesn't mean we're not doing anything. You know, there's still certain things we're supposed to be doing too. And the other people just kind of get drawn in by that frequency. That they kind of they'll come to you because of the frequency. So we have to be really clear what frequency we're giving off. And we're not clouding it with a lot of different frequencies, a lot of confusing frequencies. Saying one thing, doing something else. Because what our thoughts are doing is way stronger than what we're actually saying. And what we're doing is also very strong. Right around, maybe not as strong as our thoughts, but it's kind of right up there. It's definitely the action that's showing. Even if we're saying something totally different. So really look at what you are trying to bring in. I don't like the word manifest. It's a very human word. It's a very manipulative, and it's sort of a word to kind of, because I want to get something. I want to get something out of it. That's really what manifest usually means. Look at what you're creating. Look at what you're trying to call forward. Look at what that is. Look at why you want it. Are you pure on why you want it? Like if you really want your superpowers to come online more, like clairaudience, clairvoyance, if you haven't gotten to that stage where that stuff is really active, if you're not in those phases yet, and that's what you want to do that year, look at why you want them. Look at what you're doing to kind of bring them in. Because if you're not functioning from a certain level of purity, you're not going to get them. There is that fail-safe we kind of built into this lifetime, in a sense, where in Atlantean timelines we didn't have those built in so much, and a lot of timelines we don't have that built in. If you don't have a certain level of purity, those gifts cannot come in, and they will not continue to develop because you would use them for other purposes. I always say telepathy is one thing everybody wants to do. We all do it anyway. People, if you're in a human consciousness, you just don't tune into the wavelength to realize you're getting stuff all the time and you're sending stuff all the time, but we always kind of do it. Telepathy is a human word, you know. ESP is more the word you'll see in ascension circles, because you're kind of just reading your field. And that's usually how I'll say it. You're just reading your field. If something is coming my way in my field, and my field's very broad, I know what's going on. I don't have to turn around. Like, I don't have to turn around and know there's a cat behind me. I'll feel it. The cat's behind me. I can, as soon as it enters in my field, the cat's 3 blocks up. If it hits there, I know where it is because that's part of my field. That's how large my field is. And we are responsible for our field. And we're responsible for anybody in our field. So whatever we're allowing in our field, that is ours to straighten out. There's no one else's job to straighten out our field except us. So let me finish up the telepathy thing, and I'm going to get into that a little bit. Telepathy is something we'll all get into when we feel like we'll be able to use it to get someone to do something we want them to do. No one gets into telepathy because they're pure about it, okay? And we have to be really real about why we all want to get into this stuff in the beginning. It's a very fourth dimensional consciousness in a sense. We're still trying to work with the third dimensional world, but we still have a little interest in the fifth dimensional consciousness. So we're setting kind of straight and forth, right? So we're sort of foot in both worlds, but telepathy is something we feel like we can use to get something we want out of somebody. It's kind of the gateway. And then you realize it really doesn't work like that. And it's more for knowledge, ancient knowledge, sacred remembrances, understanding what's going on with others so you can assist them. If that's what you're supposed to do with it. If that's what you're supposed to do with the information you have. You just kind of understand how things work. You understand what's going on. You have a clearer picture of your world, not somebody else's world. Doesn't mean you won't see more of their world. You will. But we're not obsessed with somebody else's world. You know, we're not trying to do everything because of somebody else's world. We allow what we allowed in our world because it's our world. And we're the ones that are responsible for our world and what we're allowing in it. So if we're not taking, and this is a big time when you see this, it's no coincidence so many people have a lot of family drama around this time of the year, right around 12/21, going forward, right till you get to 1/11. Because so many things, especially when you get into blood family, we don't take control of what's in our field. We don't believe, we allow it. We believe we're a victim to it. You know, we don't want to straighten it up. I mean, if we're not the one straightening out our reality, whose responsibility is that? And there'll be certain spaces in consciousness you're going to get to, certain places in ascension you're going to get to where that is crystal clear. We are the ones responsible. And if that means we got to throw everybody out of our reality because none of that shit is aligned, we will do that. We will do that for years and be completely happy and in complete bliss and magic and not care who's there and who's not there. So different from our human experience. Because in our human experience, we wanted everyone to be there. We want to follow everybody around and have everyone, you know, we're trying to pull everybody in, but pulling them in from a very lack and needy place. You know, we want everyone to be here. We don't want to be by ourselves. We want to all huddle up together and do whatever together. Certain parts of ascension, you understand that, and there will still be some parts you don't want to align. There'll be parts that we don't want to get to. There'll be parts we don't want to look at. There'll be parts we don't want to have to see because we're still attached to it. We're still attached to that outcome. We're still attached to that reality. We don't want to let it go. No matter how fucked up, no matter how misaligned it is, no matter how completely unconscious it is, no matter how much karma we're creating by staying in it, we will set in that thing and just ride it till it dies. And those are the ones that around, once you start getting into spring equinox, the ones we're going to kind of, what is that term? Ride or die. The ones we're going to ride with and die with, you'll start to see that stuff will just start collapsing. Because you can't keep it any longer. You know, it can't continue to go. It cannot continue to exist because your frequency, it's now going to hold you back. If we start to twist it and look at it like these things are not holding, they're holding me to a reality that is now holding me back. It's tying me to an old reality. We can't even enter into an old reality anymore. We can view it, we can visit it. You know, I just visited an old reality a few days ago, or maybe a week ago. I don't know. Time doesn't really matter, but it was a little while, not too long ago, a couple of days ago, a week ago, whatever. We'll go into these old realities, but you can't set in them. You can look at them, you can visit them, you can see how everyone's doing in them. Check in. I kind of call it we do our little mini check-ins energetically to see what people are doing. But if you try to stay there, your body will reject it. You'll get sick. I even don't want to like the word sick because it's really your body's trying to tell you, you know, we can't go here. You know, it's going to affect our physical body. You cannot take a body's vibration that is now higher than that reality and try to suffer and put it back in it. It's just going to cause a lot of grief and a lot of suffering. And that's what's going to happen. So when you start to feel that, when you start putting yourself back into these old realities, you're going to feel like I did it to visit. I knew I was visiting. I was passing through. I was not staying. But I knew physically I couldn't stay anyway. Like my body would not allow me to stay. You'll find it smaller. You know, things that used to feel so big to you feel so small. And you just kind of go through the motions. I mean, that's a song that's been in my head all day. And that's one reason I wanted to pop on. When we start going through the motions of something, we don't have a passion to it. We don't have a purpose to it. We don't have it's no spark for us there anymore. We have to take a hard look at why we're doing that. Why are we going through the motions? Why are we sitting here? Why are we continuing to circle back and circle back and circle back into stuff that we can't do anymore here. There's no more we can do here. We've done what we did. We fulfilled our contract, whether we were clearing our own programming, we were waking people up to some type of different consciousness. It might not have been the highest of the high when we were there. Maybe we did the best we could. We always do what we can do. Maybe we wish we could go back and do it differently. We could be at a higher consciousness, but you know, the reality wouldn't have worked that way. You were too high of a consciousness when you entered it in. Those people would not have been attracted to you in the first place because you would have been too, I'm going to use, this is not really the word I would normally use, but it's kind of like too far out of the league, their league in a sense. And not in a judgment way, but it's just your consciousness is too far from where they're willing to go at that point and what they want, what they even want to be a part of. There are some people that you will never run into because the frequencies are too far apart. So even though we might want to go back and do something from the consciousness we're at now, from the place we're at now, we're normally going to not be able to do that. Now, they will caveat that if someone reaches out to you. Now you're bringing your new consciousness to them. Now, you also have to remember they're picking up on that consciousness, and that's why they're back. They're not back out of some, oh, what a coincidence, this person, just popped up out of nowhere. Shocker. They're back because now they're in a different consciousness, and you're in a different consciousness, and now perhaps, I'm not going to say all the time, sometimes these are tests from our universe to see if we're going to go back and play in it. Are we going to go back? Are we going to continue to go through the motions of this shit that's not working? Are they now in a different space where perhaps we can align a reality? Or they just need to be woken up a little bit more, but they're still only so far they're going to go? It's only going so far, and then they're going to back off again? These are the things we really have to be honest with ourselves about. And why people are there and what we can do to assist them. But at what point is it's just no purpose anymore? There was a lot of realities I was in, and I was in them hardcore for like a year and a half, 2 years, and some 3 and 4 years. And after a while, it's like, I can't do any more here. It's just, no one's going any farther here. The programming I was supposed to clear, I cleared that, and they're not going any farther with their consciousness in this moment. That's not where they're going. There's no point of staying anymore. So when we're in realities and we're going through the motions, and you will find this type of year, you hear people say that all the time. In human consciousness, you hear that phrase so much. I'm just going through the motions. I really don't care. I really don't have any, I really don't have any reason to be here. I'm just going through the motions, which means you have no energy behind it. And everyone knows that. You're not fooling anybody by going through the motions of any reality. I'll let you in on a secret. Everybody knows that. No matter how unconscious they are, they still have the same antenna up. Even though they might not be reading the signal consciously, their antenna is still up, and they still know somewhere you don't really want to be there. And it is obvious. You don't have to telegraph it anymore. It's all laid out there for everybody to see. Everything we feel and think, it's all laid out. Whether people pick it up consciously or they pick it up unconsciously, they still pick it up. They're picking up the message you're laying down. Don't worry about it. They're getting it. But that's what human consciousness does. It goes through emotion. It's trying to brush somebody off, in a sense. Anywhere we take our body, we have to know and have a reason to be there, and we have to want to be there. And if you don't want to be there, look at why you don't want to be there. It's a big one. That's a big first one we want to do. Do we have a program running as to why we don't want to be there? Is it a fear going on why we don't want to be there? Do we have a lack program running on why we don't want to be there? Are there things we don't want to deal with and align that are there that we want to, sweep under the rug? In our human consciousness, a lot of these realities droned on for so long because we never took responsibility for them. The minute we take responsibility for these realities, they will very quickly align, because from most of the time, a majority of the time, they kind of align themselves. The minute we say, no more am I participating in it, the other people, their whole point of being in that reality with you is to get you to that point where you said, I'm not going to participate in this anymore. And the minute you get to that energetic place, their job is done. This is now a closed contract. This is now finished. All this shit now goes away quickly. But we take that personal when it goes away. We're like, no, I want to align it to something else. I want to now align this reality where we're all going to be in this thing together. Well, that's not what these people signed up for. These people signed up to get you into a certain space and clear some of your programming and get you to a certain space of consciousness and self-worth. The minute you have now gained that, their job is done. I'm not saying it's not impossible to align it to something else. I do think in that moment it is. I think you might have to have a reset time for these realities to reset, and that could be, 6 months, years later. And even then, will everyone be able to come back together again and have a conscious partnership, a conscious reality where everyone's working from the highest aspect they can get to in that moment and not bringing any human stuff in, not bringing any ego stuff in? Can they do that? That's the big question. So be aware. Be aware of what we are going through the motions on, what we are allowing in our world, what we are not standing up to, what we're not doing that we know we should be doing. Like I said, you're getting the downloads. People like to call them downloads. They're only downloads when they're at a consciousness higher than your body. It's kind of like channeling. You'll feel it coming in higher, and it's still you. It's just a higher consciousness version of you. It's a higher aspect of you. It's still just you. When I used to channel years ago, it would always feel like that. But eventually you get to this place where everything comes through you because you're all of it. You know, there's just different parts of you and they're all in here, in your field. They're not coming from a higher place. But I still hear people call them downloads because to them it's something higher than they are. I just call it kind of information. This is information. Stuff that comes in, I'm like, oh, that's interesting. Let me see what I want to do with that. Maybe you might get stuff you know you need to do, but it's not the right time yet. But you know it's kind of hanging out there. You might know certain people might pop back in. It's just not the right time yet. That doesn't mean we go out and try to drag them back in. It's not the right time yet. When they are at a consciousness where they want to talk to you, trust me, they'll find you. Doesn't matter where you are. You could be in an igloo somewhere in Antarctica. They'll find you. Don't worry about it. That is not rocket science. It's an energetic fact. If someone's trying to find you, they will be able to find you. It will happen if it's supposed to happen. But that's the main reason why we just let all this stuff drag on. We go through the motions of so many things because we just don't know how to say that's enough. I've had enough. I have no interest in this anymore, no matter what it is. We want to do the obligation energy. We don't want the blame. We don't want the judgment. We don't want to feel ashamed because we don't want to do this anymore. So we tend to keep going. And that just drags on realities over and over and over again. And at the end of the day, we're getting nothing out of them and we're just postponing the ones we want to go do, even if we don't realize we want to go do them. Because as a human consciousness, we can't even imagine what those realities are. That's why they come in backwards and they come in and we're like, I don't want to do that one. That doesn't look like anything I want to do. That's not a sexy reality I want to go do. That's kind of, why the hell do I want to go do that one? Because it didn't come in the way we wanted it. It didn't come with the people we wanted it to be attached to. It didn't come in the way we wanted it to come in. So we'll discount it, because it didn't come in the way I want it. Be open to what comes in. I promise you that the realities that come in are not going to be the ones you think. And the ones you think are going to come in, just look at it from you don't know. You in our human consciousness, we can't imagine higher consciousness realities. We just cannot. It's not even possible. So, all right, I'll start wrapping this up. I don't want to go too long, but I did want to, I did have this card fly out of the deck because I was going to pull a card. And this is, this is look what we're allowing. It's affecting our vibration. Look what we are allowing because it does affect our vibration. It ties us to the old. It ties us to the old timelines. It's funny because on New Year's Eve, right when the ball drops, if they drop the ball anymore, I don't know, maybe they don't, but I assume they still do. Everyone sings a song that, if you look up that song, actually there's some great articles. I can't remember. I heard about it. Lisa Transcendence Brown used to talk about the person who wrote the article, and I can't even remember who she is. But if you look up that song, was it Old Lang Syne? I can't remember what it is, but you know the song I'm talking about, the one they always do at New Year's. There is a big title, Lemuria, and there's an article about the fall of Lemuria and that song. It's really an interesting article. It can bring a lot of stuff forth when you read it. But the article, you really want to read the article, because not just listen to the song. You can listen to the song, but the article is really great. Just plug in that song and put in Lemuria, and you'll usually be able to pull it up. But humans have this idea that they can always just start anew January 1st, right? But they're still carrying all the shit with them. Nothing really changes from December 31st to January 1. It's not like all of a sudden everything's different. It's just the same. It's just another day. Because vibrationally, we're still the same. Our frequency is still the same. So will we get maybe new people, new situations, but the energetics of the reality will still construct the same. Because we're still the same. Now, technically, we're never exactly the same because we always are ticking up in vibrational frequency, but the ticks are so slow to move out of a reality and move out of a consciousness into another reality. I mean, look at how long you stayed in third dimensional consciousness, human consciousness. How many New Years did you have? How many ticks up the scale of consciousness did you have? But until you went through an awakening and an ascension where everything just kind of fell apart completely, in these human realities, did you actually shift enough to get to different realities, shift enough to get to a different consciousness? Look how mind-blowing the things that had to happen to actually shift you that quickly. And you had to work at shifting. That is why when we look back at our human life, we could spend 30, 40, 50, 60 years in human consciousness, even though technically our frequency is always increasing a teeny bit through what we go through, what we clear as we go through certain situations. But we're not ticking up enough to get out of that consciousness. So, okay, I think that's it. Okay, so I guess that's all I gotta say. So I guess that's it for me. I will see everyone next time, and be honest with ourselves. There's a lot of stuff we can all start to really cut ties on, cut cords on, when we realize we're just hanging on to hang on. All right.